The Bachy crew have done it. Utter domination of the Bedroom Alliance is now complete. Plus, just how good at this game is Conor. My guy Troy is super sad to have lost his mate Marley. Ciarran's got some apologizing to do. Brittany hasn't done a puzzle since she was 10. Empty bars are creepy. And members of the Bachy crew visit the challenge version of a honeymoon suite, aka the bunk bed hookup. It's the Challenge Australia episode 7 and 8 recaps coming up right now. What up, my fellow challenge lovers? Welcome to The Challenge Historian, where we dive deep into all things MTV's The Challenge, past, present, or future. If it's happening in the Challenge universe, then we are here to document it. I am your host and dedicated challenge historian, Jacob Hollaball. Thank you so very, very much for being here with me this evening on this day where we break down another 2 episodes of the wonderful, the great, the how did this get canceled? How did no one watch it? How did it not be made more available over here in the States? We would have ate this stuff up. Challenge Australia, episodes 7 and 8, the penultimate pair of episodes, if you will, as we then after this just have the finale, which I guess is 2 episodes, but really it's just one 2-hour episode, however they want to label it. This is the penultimate podcast episode of this season because we're covering 7 and 8. We've got the finale 9 and 10 to go later this week, which are actually airing in real time, aired a few hours ago in Australia, or went live in Australia because they're not airing live anymore in Australia. They're just being dumped to a streamer over there, but they were dumped this morning. So those links should be up on the internet somewhere for us soon to hopefully watch and cover later this week. On that note, other programming notes, Ride or Dies will be this Wednesday night. Next 2 Wednesdays, I assume it doesn't, because of where the days of the holidays fall. They're just going to keep right on rolling with those. I don't think there'll be any week breaks. So Ride or Dies on Wednesday night. That season getting into the back half. Survivor finale this Saturday over on the Most Likely To podcast feed. That will be the last Survivor Saturday for a little while with my good friend Paige. And then, of course, the Challenge Australia, assuming we get the links to the final 2 episodes. That finale will be discussed this Friday on the podcast. So it's finale season, or starting to be, at least for the shows that only go an appropriate length amount of episodes, unlike Ride or Dies, which is, I guess, going to be like freaking 18 plus episodes. Who knows? But we're going to cover it all. And tonight we're covering it all. Australia 7 and 8. We're skipping the Cliff Notes recap again, headed straight to the storylines. 2 episodes in 1 coming up. Let's go. First thing to talk about is the biggest storyline from this 2 episodes, which has turned out to really be the story of the season. And that is that the Bachy crew finished the job. Absolute, utter domination, one alliance over the other. When going in, admittedly, myself, and I bet those of you watching along thought this was going to go the complete other way based off of the first couple daily challenges, how people were finishing, what we were starting to think of competitor-wise of a bunch of the different players on either side of this Bedroom versus Bachy alliance, and then no, flipped it. We couldn't have been more wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong. I don't want to speak for you, but I think the sentiment in the house, literally in the house of the Challenge house, and I think probably without being able to take the pulse of the fan community the way we could with these shows here in America where we're all watching them together, it seems like everyone would have been probably more people than would be on the Bedroom side, just given their early results, given they had Olympians and boxers and whatnot. Everyone that would look like they were winning everything, not named Troy, who wasn't on kind of either side of things. But no, the Bachy crew dismantles the Bedroom Alliance one by one by one by one by twice, one of them twice over, by one. 6 eliminations in a row. They get the other alliance out. 6 eliminations in a row. They find themselves in the power position, able to throw in the other team, often versus each other, and then even when it ends up a one-on-one matchup in the eliminations, one alliance versus the other, the same one kept coming out on top. We had David and Jessica go. We had Ciarran and Johnny go, which Jessica and Johnny, part of that Bedroom alliance. Then Ryan and Sugar twice in a row have to get eliminated for no explained reason, which we just moved right on past. And then Emily and Marley and Grant and Megan in this episode, with Megan becoming the first person to at least be collateral damage from the Bachy alliance when it got down to the point where there was almost no chance they could have any sort of non-mixed alliance team. So only one person in the 6th and final week as true collateral damage from their alliance, taking out the entire other, 6-person alliance, really. I mean, we had Grant, Emily, Ryan, Sugar, Johnny, and Jessica that were solid, plus Ciarran. So make it 7. Those 7 very much solid. Throw in David and Marley, who were not in that alliance, but were kind of floaters in the middle. And it's just an absolutely incredible run. Obviously, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here. We're talking about the 2 people who were eliminated, 2 of the 4 people who were eliminated. These 2 episodes, these storylines are going to be kind of all over the place, not exactly in any sort of set order. But they were aided certainly by Grant coming in last 3 out of 4 times in a row. Tough look for my guy Grant there. That really is the deciding factor in this, because with the format of the game, yes, the Bachy crew, and we're about to talk about the actual leader, the non-bachelor member leader of the Bachy crew, Conor, do a great job of getting power, of sending in the right people, making the simple, easy decision, but they were also aided in a big way. The only way this could be such a clean sweep is because people like Grant keep getting last from the other side and allowing them to do double matchups and not, avoid the possibility of do we want to send someone that's in our side up against person X, like an Emily, like a Ryan or a Sugar both times, like maybe even a Grant and a Megan here. But they don't even have to come to that choice because Grant kept losing. But we mentioned his name before. He's the only one that really deserves to be talked about in all of this, because while the Bachy alliance of Brittany, Megan, Kiki, Konrad, and Ciarran, yes, super strong the whole time, very impressive. We'll talk about them as a collective in a moment. Their alliance did expand in the early parts of this game, and the main pickup they made, the smartest pickup in the house, was Conor. Because Conor, well, he's not Bachelor. Top Chef, I believe, was his show. I hope I'm not getting that wrong. Regardless if I am, he's Bachy now. He's Bachy crew for life, because he is the leader of the group, which is hilarious that, yes, this crew dominated in such fashion, but they did it by bringing in one person who wasn't really meant to be a part of their alliance, and then that person really being the catalyst of all of this, because 2 daily challenge wins where he fully aligns with them, does everything they would want to as a group, 2 elimination wins in moments where he and a Bachy partner could have been removed from the game and instead got some upset victories over members of the other alliance. And I really have to reassess. I don't think Conor can win, because I think Troy's just gonna win of whoever everyone's left at the end of this. We'll talk predictions at the very end of the podcast. I just think Conor definitely puzzle-wise is first pick of the 4 that are left for puzzles in the final, but the endurance factor, I think Troy's, kind of head and shoulders above the other 3. But if Conor caps this off with a win, this is going to be one of the more impressive seasons in a long, long while, because he has run the game at this point, run the storylines for more or less. He's been a part of all different variations of the storylines through the season. It's an absolutely incredible run by him. So hats off to Conor. As for Brittany, Megan, Kiki, Konrad, Ciarran, they never have to sweat. They never have to make a hard decision against one another. They don't take a couple of the small chances that were there where the group maybe could have broke up. I continually predicted episode after episode that this group was going to, someone was going to take a shot at someone else. It was going to blow up, implode. And while there was a couple small chances for that, no one took it. Easy decision every time, stuck together every time, had their fun, isolated the rest of the house, which is the other brilliant thing that they do here. Probably the most brilliant thing of anything they do. It's not just that they stick together, but that they stick together in such a way in the house they purposely isolate all the other players, make them feel like we're having fun, you're miserable, and that's going to affect you. And it clearly does, because to say that it doesn't affect Emily in any way over the last couple episodes, that couldn't be further from the truth. Clearly affects her. By the end of the 8th episode, Grant has no problem going home. He's completely over it. He's having a miserable time and has for weeks. And Ryan was a little bit of the similar way. Jessica before that was kind of a similar way. They really just ostracize these other people, and that's a very smart thing to do in a challenge house. Ruin their mental game, ruin their desire to be there. They become a much easier opponent to beat, which is what they do. My final question, though, about this group, it's super duper impressive, extremely impressive what they do. Is it more impressive because they're playing for their first time, or is it less impressive because they're playing for the first time? Because the playing for the first time part brings in that, like, it was a natural alliance. They knew each other from their show or shows, different seasons of the show, and they were all just like, hey, you know, we've got the biggest group here of people who were on the same show previously. We actually do know each other a little bit, like each other a little bit. Some of us dated each other for a little bit there, and we get along, and so that makes for an obvious we should stick together. So does that make it a little less impressive because it was just like this obvious alliance that fell into place, or is it more impressive that they're all doing this for the first time and that they can build such a coalition, that they can add such a player like a Conor that then carries their asses and makes their lives very easy? I don't know where I fall on that one. So it feels like a little bit of both, regardless of how you split it. Super impressive run for the Bachy crew. They have officially eliminated every single member of the other alliance that seemed to be stacked with competitors. Seemed like there was no chance in hell. If you would have told me on episode 3 this is what was about to happen, I would have given you 0% odds. I would have taken any bet you wanted to make. Couldn't believe it. So hats off to the Bachy crew. Hats off to the non-Bachy crew member, Conor, for leading this. And yeah, tough look for the Bedroom Alliance. We're going to be all over the place here with these storylines. So let's take this next segment here and just talk about the daily challenges. We get 2 of them across the 2 episodes, and very big surprise, and thought this definitely was maybe going to happen. Very excited that it did. 2 new challenges that we haven't seen on USA or Ride or Dies. That does not mean that we're not about to see either of these or both of these on Ride or Dies. I kind of fully expect to, but it's only right that this season gets to be the one where we see something first, since everything else has been a repeat, and, you know, the eliminations we're about to talk about were a repeat. So only fair that we get a couple of them that are new to us in this version, the first time we're seeing them, and they're both great. Let's talk about them each. Runaway Ride from episode 7. This one, really, really good. Like, really, really good. Again, look, the show is determined to be an action movie during the daily challenges. Half of the time, it is determined to waste all of their budget money and balloon this budget for a show that's leaking viewers faster and faster every episode and season. It's determined to just use all this money on all these toys and all these pyrotechnics and fire and vehicles and whatever, which, fine. If you're going to do it, at least when it's good and fun and cool, it works out. No problems here, which is what happens here with Runaway Ride. They got all these toys, they got cars, they got buses, they got explosions, they got a race course, whatever. All amazing because it actually turns into a fun and interesting daily challenge. So I like this a lot. Are those props completely unnecessary? Yes, but I like it. Shout out to the driver of the bus, because doing this course over and over, and, you know, the driver of those cars always doing the same little maneuver, which, you know, it was kind of cool to watch the first time, maybe even the second, but by like the 7th time you see the car move and swerve at the same spot, you're like, okay, we get it. It would be more fun if you actually like ran into the car one time. I don't know how you do that safely, but that would have been fun. Which I believe we've seen that in the trailer for Ride or Dies, maybe. So maybe we will be seeing a version of this, but a crash test version of this on Ride or Dies soon. But props to that driver. He did seem to make it fair and equal. You know, the course was set up. He followed the course very same for everyone. You know how I don't like when different people kind of get different runs of the same game. It felt like he did a really good job. So shout out to him. But we got memory. We got composure. We got silly physical things that need done. We have super dangerous. It's all a great combo, which, speaking of super dangerous, no one gets hurt. That's a miracle, because they are getting tossed around. It does not seem like it is the most padded inside of the bus or anything. Like, it seems pretty vicious. Like, some of the teams get a little better than others at, like, let's stay kind of half on a knee, you know, let's anticipate when we get thrown to the left that, like, next up we're going to get thrown to the right, and like kind of brace, or like maybe just move over there from the start. Other teams like a Kiki, like an Emily, half the teams or more at least just kind of fall prey to, like, we're just going to run as fast as we can, and we're just going to accept that we're going to constantly get thrown against another wall, and it looks like it hurts. The fact that only, you know, one person, Emily, comes out puking, one person, Kiki, comes out still in a lot of pain, but she went in a lot of pain, but actually seemed almost better, more spry after this. Maybe somehow she knocked something back in place. We get Brittany, who I guess has a leg injury. We'll talk more about that later, but not from this. So no one gets hurt. That's that's a miracle. Hopefully it remains that way if we do see this again on another season here shortly. Would have loved to know the actual results of each team. That's very frustrating. Is the only frustrating element of this whole daily challenge is I want to know how people do. I want to know, like, did they get 6 right? Or did they get 10 right? How fast was it? Like, as always, I kind of want, if you're going to make such a big chunk of the episode, I've said it so many times, but if you're going to make a big chunk of the episode and you're going to make this all about the sport and the competition, then like show me the clean runs or give me a website or an Instagram account or something, a YouTube shorts, I don't know, where I can go watch the full runs of everyone and see the actual results all the way through. Full timer, how many did they get right? How fast was each one? All of it. If it's going to be that into the sport and the competition, then like, go all in. No more half measures. Anyways, I really wanted Marley and Emily to pull it out. We'll talk about them losing when we get to the eliminations. As for the other daily challenge, frozen senseless, that's the word I'm looking for. It's also new, and it's also really, really great. This is legitimately interesting. This is legitimately well thought out of a creative building out of a challenge. It feels very Survivor-y, which I say as a positive thing. I think that is a very good thing. The more that the challenge could maybe mirror a little bit in some small ways the typical Survivor games, I think that could work out in its favor. So go ahead and do it. This one feels very much kind of like that. Shout out to the teams that figure out the cuddle position works way better in the ice bath. Super beneficial. Sit, same orientation, be able to look and, talk about what you're looking at, not flipping it around backwards or getting yourself confused. That was a very smart move. I just got to say, not to keep bringing up Ride or Dies, but I really hope they do this challenge on Ride or Dies just for like Nelson having to like relay what shapes he's feeling with his hands. We'll only single out one person, but like there's others that could be singled out. I feel like we didn't get as much comedy from this group as we could possibly from Who's Left and the Ride or Die crew of trying to explain, well, it felt like this, or it's this shape, or drawing with their fingers in the air. That was kind of one of the most fun parts of this, is the different times. I think one of the Brooks, maybe both of the Brooks, do a bunch of like, it looks kind of like this in the air, and it's like, yeah, that doesn't help. Can you describe? Can you just go with like star, arrow, mushroom cloud, whatever? Like, give me something. So I kind of hope we get to see this again for that extra comedy. Troy and Brooke B, they win, and they win by like a lot. It's very impressive. They established themselves as the favorites. They might have kind of slowly have done this already over the last week or two. They had both moved up my personal power rankings, but their second win as a team, Troy's fourth win in 8 daily challenges, which really snuck up on me when he wins this. And I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, I knew they had won together, but like, damn, he's won 4 out of 8. Like, he's won half. That's entering some like pretty high ground of success rate in daily challenges for partners or individual seasons. So we're going to have to run the stats later on at the end of the season. We'll see how he does in the final daily challenge, which I believe there's one more, and maybe he can get up above that 50% line. But that 50% line is a real kind of catalyst for if you're above that in a partner or individual season, you have done some real impressive stuff. And it's, no one trick pony. You're good at everything and you're dominating. And Troy certainly is. And Brooke J has definitely established herself as that as well. We'll see where they both end up in the power rankings and predictions heading into the final. Now let's talk just a big conglomerate of, strategy, house time, bar time, chicanery, activities, non-game competition, or I guess the strategy is competition. I don't know. Just a catch-all group right here before we dive into later on the eliminations and then get to the awards and whatnot. So just to catch all for everything else that happens in these couple episodes, that's worth kind of talking about, little mini storylines unto themselves. First one, there isn't strategy needed. There isn't strategy to be talked about, which is why this isn't just big strategy corner segment here, but just instead catch-all segment, because the Bachy crew just runs it, makes easy, obvious picks. The only single strategy thing that comes to play in these 2 episodes is not really even strategy, is just a decision. Troy and Brooke J, they have to decide between 2 teams. There's 3 teams to pick to throw into elimination. They rule one out because they're friends or whatever, and therefore they have to pick between 2 teams that they have exactly even ties with and that are pretty similar competition-wise. They can't pull the trigger. those two teams end up literally not caring by the end of the decision-making process that Troy and Brooke go through. They try to do 1, 2, 3, say a name. That doesn't go well. They spend 2 hours, it seems, all night, it seems, talking to every single individual. And by the end of it, they have flipped sides and they each want to vote for the other opposite team now, thinking they've come to each other's side and instead both flipping at the same time. It is hilarious, except if you're the two teams waiting to go in, because again, they end up so fed up with this that they're just like, okay, like you don't have to tell us, or like you don't have to decide until we get there. We don't care. Can you just stop talking? Can you just leave us alone? So that is the only strategy, and that's not really strategy. That's just those two having a tough time with the semi-tough decision. I guess it's really not that tough of a decision almost at all. It doesn't impact what's going to happen afterwards almost in any way. So it just kind of impacts who, eventually who does better in the elimination. But that's the only strategy to talk about. So let's move to the bar. They go to the bar in both episodes. In both times, it is absolutely depressing. Bring back public bars. Let these people go back out into the wild, into the great unknown of real life, real people in a real bar with real activity. Because this bar is so big and spacious and empty with only 12 and then 10 of them in it. It is so boring, and there is nothing good that's going to come of this. There is no positive, fun, entertaining, things that can happen in this setting that aren't going to just happen if you just give them the same alcohol in the house or whatever. And I get you want to let them leave. I, of course, want them to be able to leave the house. So this is better, I guess, than nothing, but they just need to bring back the public bars. I know it's more difficult. The NDAs, it's fun that they don't have to go through all of that stuff. And obviously this started and continues for COVID protocols, which, I don't know. At this point, can we just scrap those? Can we just let them be back out in the public? Because it's really, we're on season 6 worth of challenges affected by this and hurt dramatically by it. And it seems about time to change it all up, but I don't think they're ever going to. I don't think they're ever going to have them interact with the public ever again, regardless of what pandemics may occur or anything of that nature. I think it's just easier on production, and they're going to go with this. And that really stinks because the dancing scenes are all super duper fake. It's very clear every single time. It's not just the challenger story. It's not just these 10, 12 people. This is about all versions of the show at this point. They're like, they get there, they turn on some music, they tell everyone, you have to dance for 3 minutes, we'll film it. And then boom, you can talk strategy and complain about going into elimination because that's all that these things are good for. It all ends up just being the fake dancing for like 30-second montage, and then who's talking about being mad or sad they're going into elimination. That's almost it. We've very rarely gotten anything better than that. So either stop doing it, just let them stay at the house, or at least go on like the boats. The boats are a little more fun sometimes, and it makes a little more sense that they're isolated, or just let them go out in public again. Give them public bars, let them spend their own money on drinks, and then show me the bus rides back to the house. There was so much good content came from public bars, bus rides back. I want that again. Let's move on. Ciarran's apology. Ciarran, we assumed this would come back around at some point in, first episode, second episode, whatever it was, one of the first two. He and Audrey have a little fun briefly, albeit briefly, but it still occurred in the shower together. We find out immediately they both have significant others. Audrey then goes home very quickly before we can have any follow-up on that. But Ciarran has been around the whole time. We haven't had any follow-up on it. I think he's mentioned it a time or two that he's, real sorry about it, really worried about it. But now we get the confrontation. His girlfriend calls him. His girlfriend has been informed via burner Twitter account, which 2022, everyone. Burner account has hit her up and said, your guy is doing some stuff, flirting, hooking up, whatever, and he's got to come clean, which he does, or at least, he does. He says he's sorry. I don't know if there's more to the conversation, if he says explicitly what happens or not, or if what she says explicitly was told to her is, confirmed, like, yes, that's exactly correct, or no, this was, I don't know. We don't see the whole conversation, but she knows he cheated. He knows she knows. He apologizes for it, and gotta say, it's a horrible look regardless, because you don't want to cheat on your significant other ever, especially not on national television, canceled national television. So that's, he's one person who maybe is okay with the ratings dropping. I don't know, but he actually legit seems remorseful and sad. Like it's always hard to tell through the camera lens in a challenge house what's, what's real emotions, what's for the cameras, what's, because you're bottled up in this house. It's just hard to tell. We're going off very little info to judge a very serious scenario, but the little info we get, certainly compared to a lot of other instances of similar situations in challenge houses, he seems legit remorseful and sad, and like he's willing to do the necessary work and say the necessary things and go through all of the appropriate actions and, again, work and whatnot, and atone for this mistake. I'm super glad for his sake, for her sake, for the show's sake, for entertainment's sake, for us, that she it encourages him to stay and to try to win, and at least gives the we can make this work when we get back. We've got some shit to, like, this isn't okay. It's not just like an immediate I forgive you and like we can move on, but like at least like don't let this ruin your game there. You're still there. It'd be nice if you won, brought back. That would be better than nothing else. So I appreciate both sides of how this conversation goes. And I've got to ask, though, from a production side, and yet another production question. I've always got questions for productions. Do they have different rules for how often you get to call someone if you've cheated on a significant other? Because that's then, a nice storyline for them to play in. Because it seems like he gets like 2 calls in 2 days here. Pretty nice. I don't think everyone's getting that. I don't know. The phone rules seem to be up in the air. We don't have any good confirmation of them on recent seasons. I mean, we just saw Tori had an actual iPhone during Banana's birthday party on Ride or Dies a couple episodes ago. So like there seems to be different stuff going on. But I always wonder, if you're like, hey, I got to call my girlfriend and tell her I cheated on her, and then like I got to call her again to check in on that, like, do you get extra calls? And because they're like, ooh, yeah, well, we're filming you, obviously, right? Like, yeah, of course you are. Yeah, you can actually have as long as you want. You can have as many calls as you want. Is that how that happens? Regardless, we get this. He gets through the apology. Seems remorseful and sad. It's a bad look regardless, but it's the best version of the bad look, because it seems like he actually wants to make it right in whatever way that is possible. So Ciarran gets through, and also both episodes, I'm like, oh, Ciarran's going home. We finally get the follow up on this. This is just a nice little kick in the balls for him that, they're going to do this. They're going to give us this follow up right as then he's going to get eliminated. But no, instead, it's kind of his come up moment. It's kind of him rising to the top of the ranks, and now we'll see where he ends up in the power rankings here in a moment, but he's looking pretty strong competitor going into this final. The final thing to talk about is the other hookup, the one that happens in these episodes, which is Konrad and Megan. It was only a matter of time till some Bachys get out after it, which, not counting Ciarran, who did right away, whoops, but 2 actual bachelors getting together. Of course it was going to happen. Of course it was not quite going to be the honeymoon suite, but a bottom bunk. And of course the other Bachy crew, perfect, flawless execution of great television. Kiki and Brittany walking in, wanting to know if they're all done so that they can come sleep. That is some classic challenge bunk room housing coming alive. I love it, love it, love it. And I knew there was something about Konrad that he was going to have a moment or two. And, he has the almost fight a couple episodes. He gets the hookup here. And, love that both of them fully see this exactly the same way. They both have different comments on, no. We're just friends that maybe had sex a time or two and maybe would again a time or two, but like, we're friends. Don't think anything more than that. So always good when everyone can be on the same page in a challenge house. But that's, all the random things that happen. That's the house. That's the lack of strategy in these 2 episodes. Let's move to the final thing to talk about. That would be the eliminations and the 2 teams sent home. 2 eliminations across these 2 episodes, obviously, both of which we have seen before, but that's okay. They're both solid. They're not my favorite, but I like one a lot more than the other one. Well, let's just talk about them in order. That way we can actually give our opinions on both instead of together. Your Move, I Move is in episode 7. We have seen this before. I really liked it when we saw it on episode 1 of Ride or Dies, Devin and Tori beating Kayla and Sam. I, again, liked it here, but it was sad that it wasn't much of a match, and it was kind of sad the team that lost, as much as I liked both teams and both players in it. We'll get to that in a second. Emily and Marley seem to work really well together the whole time, but I guess they're just moving super freaking slow, because everything we see from them is that, like, they're communicating really well. They're not like, neither of them's messing the other one up. They're not like, one person says move left and they move the opposite way, whatever. Like, they seem to be working really, really well together, but just going extremely slow. Plus, they have the poor strategy of one ball out at the start and move it around, which leaves the other four kind of stuck as you're moving the other one around, versus Conor and Kiki, who do the very smart thing. They get all 5 balls out so that as they move, they're all moving through the same track. They kind of are able to move all 5 balls, at least for the first half. They have all 5 balls like completely together, and then they hone in a little more and like, let's just move one at a time, and the rest of them will move a little bit further along as we do it. They go out to a huge lead. They win. It's very, very impressive. It's an awesome victory again for Conor and for Kiki, who Kiki has really shown out now with these couple of elimination wins and, daily win in there. Does she have any shot at winning the final? No, I do not think so. I think almost none. But that doesn't always, that matters for some people, and it matters for some people when, they're there for, 15 seasons in a row where they don't really seem to have a shot at winning the final. But it doesn't matter when it's one person. In fact, it's just, she's been so super impressive because winning multiple eliminations is no joke. She is definitely, well exceeded my expectations. She seems to have, she said as much, exceeded her own expectations, a lot of the other people in the house, and she's absolutely been kicking butt, and it's awesome to see. And again, I don't think she can win the final because I don't see the endurance side from the couple endurance challenges that we've seen from this group and what she's done in them. But you never know. You never know because there's no obvious like dominant, like that person's obviously going to win on the female side. So could happen. But regardless, shout out to Kiki for absolutely showing out and winning multiple eliminations in times where definitely the underdog going in, though her and Conor really shouldn't have been. The underdog thing may have just been me not being fair and mislabeling this, being like, yeah, just because it's an Olympian and I think Marley's a pretty good competitor, like it's a puzzle in communication. That's all it is. So I don't know why Conor wouldn't be the favorite in this house at that now. So that's on me. Emily and Marley leave. The reason I was feeling that way and wanting it to go that way is because I wanted Emily to win the whole thing for the sake of they're making this thing such, they've leaned so heavily into the sport of it all, into the competition of it all. And if that was going to be the case, then, and especially I feel like they're going to do that even more for the actual like global tournament, then I wanted the Olympian to win. I wanted the sick athlete, incredible athlete to pull it out and to be able to win the whole show, to at least like justify or back up this, sportification narrative. If they're going to do that, but then, it's going to be the Kikis of the world that are winning, then like, that's amazing. And that's awesome for Kiki. But like, if Kiki's going to be winning, like, let's go back to kind of OG challenge stuff anyways, where we can get more from her from the entertainment side of things and the show half of things versus the sport half, like I'm not as interested in seeing Kiki run a final as like, if the finals are going to be what the finals are. I'm interested in seeing the Olympian do it and being like, how does an Olympic swimmer stack up in a challenge final? That's, I guess, interesting from the sport side of things. But like, so I was rooting for Emily. I was also rooting a little bit for Marley. He came on late. Seems like a lot of fun. Was very solid at competing. I feel like he's one of my top picks for jump over to the American MTV version of things. Come on over, Marley. States are nice. Kiki, Conor, a lot of this cast I would actually really like to see jump on over, mix it up with the flagship MTV crew. I think they would do a really good job. So I was feeling that way about Marley. I wanted Emily to win to kind of, if this is going to be such a sport-heavy thing, competition-heavy thing, I wanted the Olympian to win to back that up. Same as, I wanted Tyson to win, which it still worked out. We have NFL athlete win, USA. So shout out Danny. Love Danny. But yeah, I wanted Emily to win. I wanted Marley to stay. As much as it would have hurt the show to have Conor and Kiki lose, as much as it's amazing and kind of capping off this incredible run by those two and that alliance in general, I was still there rooting for Emily and Marley. Let's talk the other elimination quickly. In a roll, two-person was more interesting of this than when Cache versus Sarah on Challenge USA. It's still a little too simple for me, just who can run faster for what I think they showed the clock one time was 3 minutes for a round. Whatever. It's a little too simple. It's not all that entertaining to see them. It's kind of cool and also not entertaining at the same time. Like, it was cool to see how fast Ciarran can run. That definitely was information I did not have before that I'm glad I have now. But yeah, it's not all that exciting. Grant Megan's strategy of, of her lifting herself up and just letting Grant run. I think a lot of people would laugh at that, but I'm not going to knock it because I kind of agree with their thinking going in. I can see myself thinking similar of like, hey, once this gets moving, if one of us can run faster than the other, then the person who can't run quite as fast might like trip up or like slow it down. So if I can move it at the same speed that we could together, like why not have one person go, or possibly even then like switch on and off as you get tired. I don't think it's like the craziest strategy in the world to give it a try. It ultimately doesn't work. It fails, but I don't think it was that wild to try. I just think Ciarran was way faster than the other three people he was running against, and Brittany somehow, some way, with a limping leg, was able to keep up with him or not slow his thing down, and also like not fall, which I don't know how she never falls. If her leg is legit hurt and they're running as fast as they're running, not falling for that long of time is very impressive. But, you know, she's got the little bar. She can kind of do the lean thing as needed. Very impressive. She gets through it. Ciarran just absolutely smokes it. Ciarran and Brittany both absolutely smoke it. They're going fast, like super freaking fast. That thing, that wheel is flying around the thing. And Grant and Megan leaving, you know, Megan isn't really much of a loss. She seems lovely, wonderful. I think she could be good on another season, but she was kind of just by default in this. There was a lot of other stuff going on. She was kind of just background until this episode with the little hookup and storyline, but we weren't going to get really any more out of that, given that we're going into a final. So we got kind of what we had out of that. And, you know, it's an okay loss for the show. Grant leaving is a little bit of a bummer because I just wanted this alliance to, as fun as it is, as cool as it is, as interesting as it is, that this Bachy alliance dominated in such a way. I was hoping there would at least be one little gasp of triumph or last-ditch effort from the other side, and I thought Grant maybe could win one of these and provide that. And then if he made a final, maybe like do well, at least get second to Troy in the final. But not to be had. He was definitely just, he was out of it. He had no desire to be there anymore, which would make perfect sense. Him and his whole alliance have been having a miserable time for a couple weeks of real time in the house. And when you're the last one left and you're in a room by yourself and you have no friends and you have to go to the bar and like be told to fake dance for a couple minutes and you're like, I'm just going to drink your weak ass beer or whatever you're willing to give me. Yeah, I get why he was maybe not locked in there at the end. And ultimately, it's fine. Them going home in this situation is fine. Let's hand out some awards. Best quote is up first. We've only got 3 nominees. I've got to say, well, I really enjoy listening to everyone talk because us dumb Americans love a good Australian accent, but they've been very entertaining, incredibly entertaining. Love this cast. Really enjoy this season. The quotes have been a little light, which actually may be kind of a sign of a good-ish season when there's like actual entertaining stuff going on and they don't have to rely as heavily on like the witty quips and whatnot in the confessional booth to carry an episode. So that may actually be an interesting correlation to look into at a later date. But for now, there are 3 nominees for quote of the week. That would be Megan, quote, "I've never seen him smile. If we talk about resting bitch face, he's got it in spades," end quote, about her new partner, Grant, at the end of episode 7, going in to episode 8. Second nominee, then, Brittany, who, quote, "I haven't done a puzzle since I was 10 years old. The biggest puzzle I've had to work out is how to keep and get a boyfriend." Get and keep and get, one way or the other. I might have flipped that around on accident. Either way, you get the quote. She struggles with the guys. She doesn't do puzzles, although she does fairly well on this puzzle here. And guess what, Brittany? If you get into that final, you're going to have to do a lot of puzzles. So get ready. Third and final one goes to Grant. Quote, "I don't care who I go up against in the arena. All my mates are gone, you know? For me, it's stale as cat's piss. God, just get me out of here." And that was the moment where I knew Grant was about to lose, and Megan was going to have to lose right along with him because he did not want to be there anymore. For the quote of the week, we're going to go ahead and give that one to Brittany. On to the best moment from these 2 episodes. 3 nominees here. Although both daily challenges deserve shout-outs. Like, I had a lot of fun watching them, which is a really big boost for an episode when I actually really enjoy watching the daily challenges because they're such a big chunk, but they don't get nominated here. First nominee, we haven't mentioned this before, but the backyard slip and slide. I've got to own up to something. I didn't understand. I understood, I just wasn't thinking about it. I understand how the hemispheres work and the seasons work on different parts of the world and different sides of the world. But I've been mentioning early in this season that like, this is like a bummer for them. Like they're, filming later than the other ones did. And so they're, moving towards cold weather when in fact it's going in the reverse. They're in the Southern Hemisphere in Argentina. and they're moving towards their summer. And so it's getting warmer and warmer during this season that we're watching here. And that is a good thing because we get things like backyard slip and slide. So my bad on not understanding hemispheres very well. Gonna get that corrected for future seasons of the show, depending on where they're filming and when. But love that we're getting warmer weather. I love that they're breaking out a slip and slide in the backyard. We get the little GoPro cam, Ciarran carrying it. A couple of the women carry it down the slip and slide into the pool. Lots of good stuff. Really enjoyed that little montage and moment. Second nominee, we mentioned it before, but Kiki and Brittany walking in on Megan and Konrad, asking them if they're done. Like straight up just walking in and being like, yo, are you guys done? Because we're trying to go to bed now, which is just amazing and great. And the difficulties of the bunk rooms, there is that one other room where you've eliminated almost every single person. You could maybe go sleep in there if you needed to. Anyways, third and final nominee, the montage of Troy talking to every single person about his decision and no one giving any shits, even the ones possibly going into elimination. That plus Troy and Brooke's moment where they do the 3, 2, 1, say a name, and it's the opposite. Just that whole couple minute montage of them trying to make that decision. Really, really good stuff. But Kiki and Brittany win this award for walking in, asking if they're done, trying to get some shut-eye. You need your beauty sleep in a challenge house, no matter even if your friends are having sex. You got to get them speeded along. We need to get in there. We need to get some rest. As for the episode MVP, or the dual episode MVP, Conor comes in 5th, still running this. He's the MVP of the Bachelor Alliance, even though he's the non-Bachelor member of the Bachelor Alliance. He has to be nominated here for this dual episode MVP. Grant as well, obviously just central to these 2 episodes. He's not going to not find his way into the top 5 here just based on confessional count and the fact that he's, in these eliminations and everything else. Ciarran in 3rd, big episode for him. Gets a win, 2 different wins, daily and an elimination. Has the big apology tour with his girlfriend, has the slip and slide cameras moments. He's really doing a lot. He becomes, lurking now as a possible victor of the whole season. Then we got Brittany in 2nd, also bringing it these episodes. A lot of great stuff from her, a lot of good confessionals, very prevalent in both episodes, doing all types of good things. But the MVP of these 2 episode run, it's got to be Kiki. Kiki has risen to the challenge. Kiki comes into the game following the iconic turn by Kiki McRae, not even on her season, still being a major character on her season. A lot to live up to, being a Kiki that's actually on a show, and she's lived up to it and then some. She's been amazing. She's kicking ass in these couple of episodes. We predicted going in that the injuries were going to catch up to her, that she was going to bow out gracefully, but nah. She got herself put back together, or maybe was being a little overly dramatic originally, which is also fine. That's great. Fun, good times. Entertainer, knows what she's doing. Tip of the cap for that. But puts herself back together, gets an elimination victory, and is just super prevalent the whole time through and having a great time. And yeah, I loved, she's the one, I believe, that asked Grant to come dance at the bar, which was incredible that she even asks. So Kiki takes home the MVP. Just a dominant couple episode performance for her. And finally, we've got to talk power rankings and predictions, and these go real hand in hand because we're down to 8 people and we're down to 2 episodes. We see from the trailer for the finale, 2 episode, double episode, whatever they want to call it, 9 and 10, I don't know, whatever, 2 hours of content left. We see that there is an elimination, which means we assume there is a daily challenge. And so these 8 are going to be cut down to 6 for the final. I'm not even going to say the power rankings first. Let's talk the predictions because they lead to then where the power rankings stand. They basically are a prediction of where I think these 4 on each side will end up. The season-long predictions, I did shit. Real bad for your boy over here. I'm down to 3 out of my 10 predictions. We lost in this episode Grant and Emily and Megan. We're down to just Troy on the guy side and just Brooke J and Kiki on the women's side that I thought would make the final. So the best I can do is 3 out of 10. I can get no winners right because I thought Ryan and Emily would go wire to wire. I also was horrible at my predictions from last 2 episodes to this 2. I thought Conor and Kiki were done for. Couldn't have been further from the truth. I thought Marley and Emily would get the win. Was not that far off. I think they got second. Ciarran's girlfriend does not accept his apology. She accepts more or less his apology. I would call that an acceptance. So 0 for 3 there. So not doing good. But moving into the final 2 episodes, the finale of the season, we do see in the trailer that it looks a lot like pole wrestle. So we're going to get a pole wrestle, and I'm going to go with prediction number 1. I'm going to say that Conor and Brooke B are the losers of the pole wrestle, and it's going to be painful because I want Conor to make the final really bad now he got through the one elimination where I was rooting against him because I wanted Emily and Marley to stay. Once he was through that, I want him in the final. I want him competing in the final. But I think given the 4 that are left, unless he wins another daily challenge, very, very likely, he's won 2 already, I think he's probably going to get picked to go in based on the rest of the house. And I think pole wrestle doesn't suit him as well versus these other 3 that are left. So I think he and Brooke B lose pole wrestle. That's prediction number 1. Prediction number 2 and 3 are the predictions for the winners. I believe Brooke J and Troy are going to win. Brooke J on the female side, Troy on the men's side. I don't know if this is going to happen together in any capacity or purely as individuals, but I believe those 2 will be your winners for your power rankings heading into the final. I think on the female side, Brooke J has to be number 1, Brittany 2, Brooke B 3, Kiki number 4. On the male side, I'm putting Troy, Ciarran, Conor, Konrad. I think Connor's got the clear puzzle advantage going into the final. Ciarran just showed how fast he is and that he does that run a couple different 3 to 4 minute runs. So like, it's not super endurance, but like it's enough. Like he's sprinting for 3 to 4 minutes 2 times in a row. So that's something. So I'm torn, but I think Troy's the odds on favorite. And I think Konrad's kind of the odd person out here of, I don't really see a path for victory for him. I could see Conor crushing all the puzzles and having plenty of endurance and just getting through it. I could see Ciarran being super freaking fast and like randomly gets a puzzle right real quick and suddenly he's in the lead and like, oh my God, he's going to win. And I can see Troy just absolutely dominating and being good at everything and being, first or second place in every single segment of the final. So that's how I could see that shaking out. Brooke J, I just think we've seen enough now to know I put her as a slight favorite, but it's a little up in the air for me on the female side. I don't definitively know that any of these 4 women are going to like absolutely crush the endurance or absolutely suck at the endurance. We've seen from all of them at least some sort of puzzle ability. We've seen them all work well with partners. So if they are partnered up throughout this and they're all friends with both sides, they're going to work well with each other. Who knows? So Brooke J and Troy, though, at the top, those are my picks to win. That's how I see it lining up going into the finale. We shall see how it all concludes, or possibly, I hope you haven't watched the finale if you're listening to this, but maybe you have. Who knows? If you have, they're out there in the world. If you're out there in Australia, they're airing or available right now. Hopefully for us here in the States, the links will be made available soon. As always, links are out there. Just Reddit, Twitter, Instagram, search for it. Happy Go Locky. Locky, Happy Go Locky on Twitter has been doing a great job sharing a bunch of the links, and I believe has a nice Twitter thread you can find that has all of the links in one single spot, episodes 1 through 10. So go find it, go watch it, and let's see if my guy Troy can bring it home, or if Conor can cap an absolutely epic season, if Kiki can pull yet one more upset and bring home a challenge championship. We shall see, and we'll be back to talk about it on this Friday. So that finale will be a Friday. For now, hit that follow, subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Hit me up on Instagram at Challenge Historian if you want to talk this season, Ride or Dies, All-Stars 4 announcements that are slowly leaking out, which are pissing everyone off, myself very much included. If you want to talk about that at all, hit me up on Instagram at Challenge Historian. We'll be back Wednesday with Ride or Dies. Until then, peace.